every devout Jewish man in the 1st century recited the same prayer twice a day, morning and evening, from the time they could speak. 6 words in Hebrew: Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Deuteronomy 6:4, the most sacred sentence in Judaism. Not a creed they chose, a declaration they inherited, a claim about the nature of reality. And around 55 AD, before any of the 4 Gospels were written, the Apostle Paul took that sentence, cracked it open at the seam, and inserted Jesus directly into the divine identity. Not as a servant of God, not beside God, inside the sentence itself. That move in 1 Corinthians 8:6 may be the most theologically radical thing Paul ever wrote. The Shema is not just a prayer, it is a statement of exclusive loyalty. In the ancient Near East, the gods of different nations competed. Every city had its patron deity. Every empire imposed its divine order. Israel's declaration was different. There is one God. Not the biggest God, the only God. The word Echad, one, is absolute, undivided, without competitor. When a Jewish person recited the Shema, they were making a counterclaim against every empire, every pantheon, every rival claim on their loyalty. It was dangerous to say out loud under Roman occupation. It was the sentence you died for. The Maccabees died for it. The rabbis at the time of Hadrian died with it on their lips. It was not abstract theology. It was the spine of Jewish identity. And this is why what Paul does in 1 Corinthians 8:6 is so explosive. The context: Paul is addressing the question of food sacrificed to idols. Some of the Corinthian believers have been eating meat that was first offered to pagan gods. Others are scandalized. Paul's argument begins with a theological move. He says, "We know that idols are nothing." And then he writes this: "Yet for us there is one God, the Father, from whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom are all things and through whom we exist." Look at what Paul has done to Deuteronomy 6:4. The original Shema has 2 clauses, Ihu our God and then Ihu is one. Paul keeps the structure, 2 clauses, but he distributes the divine name across them. One God, the Father, that takes the first Ihu. One Lord, Jesus Christ, that takes the second Ihu. In the Septuagint, the Greek Old Testament Paul's churches would have known, the divine name Ihu is translated as Kyrios, Lord. When Paul writes one Lord, Jesus Christ, he is directly invoking the divine name that Jewish translators used for Ihu. This is not a metaphor. It is not elevated language about a holy man. Paul is placing Jesus within the identity of the one God of Israel, the God of the Shema, in a way that breaks the sentence in 2 and puts Jesus at its center. He does this not in a formal theological treatise. He does it as a throwaway premise in an argument about food, which means this was not a new idea he was introducing. It was already settled doctrine, already shared knowledge between Paul and the Corinthian church. The high Christology, Jesus as divine, was already there in 55 AD, before Mark, before Matthew, before Luke, before John. 3 years later, Paul writes Philippians, chapter 2, verse 6, the famous Christ hymn, who, though he was in the morph of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the morph of a servant. The word morph is the Greek word in question. It is often translated form. He was in the form of God. But morph in Greek carries more weight than form suggests. Morph does not mean outward shape, In the way a costume has a shape, it refers to the essential character, the thing that makes something what it is. The scholarly debate is precise. Does Morphe theou mean Christ shared the essential nature of God? Or does it mean Christ possessed the rank and status of God, the divine mode of existence? Richard Bauckham, one of the most careful scholars working on early Christology, argues that this hymn places Jesus within what he calls the divine identity. In Jewish monotheism, what distinguished the one God from all else was not primarily philosophical attributes. It was two things. God alone was the creator of all things, and God alone was the sovereign ruler of all things. Philippians 2 includes both. Christ, through whom all things were made, and to whom every knee will bow. The hymn quotes Isaiah 45:23, a passage where Echad declares, "To me every knee shall bow." Paul applies it to Jesus directly. This is not a late development, not a slow drift from Jewish roots into Greek divinity mythology. This is Paul in the 50s, working entirely within Jewish categories, placing Jesus inside the divine identity. A generation later, the Gospel of John opens with 3 short phrases. En archi en ho logos. In the beginning was the Word. Kai ho logos en pros ton theon. And the Word was with God. Kai theos en ho logos. And the Word was God. That third clause has been debated for centuries, and the debate turns on a single Greek article, or rather, the absence of one. In Greek, theos with the definite article, ho theos, refers to the specific person of God the Father. In the third clause, theos appears without the article. It is called an anarthrous predicate nominative. Jehovah's Witnesses use this to translate the phrase, "And the Word was a God," a lesser divine being. But Greek grammar does not work that way. The rule known as Caldwell's rule, named for E.C. Caldwell, who studied predicate nominatives in 1933, observes that definite predicate nominatives placed before the verb regularly drop the article. The Greek construction is not indefinite. The lack of the article is a normal grammatical feature of predicate nominatives, not a signal of diminishment. What theos without the article does communicate is something precise. It is qualitative. The Word shares the nature of what God is. The Word is fully divine in nature, not a separate God and not a lesser God. The structure of John 1:1 is precise and intentional. The Word was with God. He is distinct from the Father. The Word was God. He shares the divine nature fully. And by verse 14, the Word became flesh. John opens his gospel the way Genesis opens the Torah. En archi, in the beginning, the same phrase as bereshit in Hebrew. He is deliberately invoking creation and placing the Word there at the origin as the agent of all things. This is the same structure Paul laid down in 1 Corinthians 8:6, through whom are all things. Bauckham's framework, the divine identity, is worth holding on to. The question is not whether early Christians thought of Jesus as divine. The question is, what did they mean by that? The options available in the ancient world were a divine hero, a demigod, a deified man, an angel, a high angelic being. The claim of Paul and John is different. It does not reach for those categories. It reaches for the Shema. Paul does not say, "There is one God," and then near him stands Jesus in a superior angelic position. Paul splits the sentence of the Shema itself and puts Jesus inside both halves. That is a different kind of claim. It is a claim about divine identity, about what it means to be the God of Israel. And it is made without abandoning Jewish monotheism. Paul in 1 Corinthians 8:6 is not introducing polytheism. He is redefining the content of the one in the Lord is one. The Shema was the sentence that said, "There is only one," and Paul says, "The one is complex, and the name Jesus Christ belongs inside it." So here is the thing that should land. The earliest explicit high Christology in the entire New Testament is not in the Gospel of John. It is in a letter Paul wrote to a Greek city about whether to eat meat. Before any gospel was written, before any formal creed was composed, Paul was already teaching that Jesus belongs inside the identity of the God of Israel. Not because Greek philosophy told him to, because he was a Torah scholar, trained at the feet of Gamaliel, who had seen something on the road to Damascus that forced him to reread everything he had memorized since childhood, including the Shema, and he read it differently. There is a word that carries all of this. It is the first word of Deuteronomy 6:4. Shema here, not just listen. Shema in Hebrew is an active, obedient hearing. Hear and act on what you have heard. What do you do with a sentence you have heard differently for the first time? Drop Shema in the comments if this changed how you read Paul. Or tell me which verse hits differently now. 1 Corinthians 8:6, Philippians 2:6, John 1:1. And if this kind of deep reading is what you are looking for, there are more videos right here. We go deep, but not complicated.